Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers because the 49ers have lost a lot of players in free agency already, and they're gearing up to pay Brock Purdy his contract. You can't exercise the fifth-year option because he's not a first-round pick. As a matter of fact, he was the last pick in the NFL draft a few years ago. Even though they have lost players like Deebo Samuel, they've lost players like Javon Hargrave. They cut him. They wanted to bring him back. He's going to go to the Minnesota Vikings. They lost Charvarius Ward and Hufanga. I still believe the San Francisco 49ers will be major contenders in the NFC, and I'm going to tell you why. But first, I want to start off with this list. I want to start off with Deebo Samuel first because they traded him to the Washington Commanders. He wanted to be traded. Now, I see a lot of people in the national media. They're saying that DK Metcalf is a diva. He may not work out with the Steelers. Where's the same energy with Deebo Samuel going to the Washington Commanders? Because I could have sworn that Deebo Samuel went to Twitter and he said, man, they had to give me the football. I'm still the same player. In actuality, he was not the same player. See, this is the problem with Deebo Samuel. He was never a true number one wide receiver. He had one great season to where he had over 1,000 receiving yards in that year. And that was in 2021. He had 1,405 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 18 yards a catch. That was by far his best season as a wide receiver. But this is a wide receiver that has dealt with a lot of injuries. He will show up in training camp being out of shape. You can see some of the pictures that we saw over the Super Bowl week when he was doing his podcast. He had the stomach. So he's not always in shape, and he's not that dependable because of those injuries, and he had a lot of drops this season, and especially in that game, Thursday Night Football against the Los Angeles Rams. Did he have some big moments this year? Yes, he did. I'm not going to shy away from that, but you're not going to lose sleep over losing a wide receiver that only gave you 670 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns, and he struggles to separate. Look at what happened against the Kansas City Chiefs in that Super Bowl. Brandon Aiyuk, he has some big moments. He struggled to separate also. But look at Deebo Samuel. They were depending on him. He couldn't separate. You could press him up at the line of scrimmage. He's not a true number one wide receiver. And when I look at Brandon Aiyuk, he's a better player than Deebo Samuel. I look at Ricky Pearsall. There's some upside there. That's why you selected him in the first round. Eventually, you're going to have to move off of one of those wide receivers. They moved off of Deebo Samuel, and he wanted to be traded. So they traded him to the Washington Commanders. You get a late round pick for him. I think that you could turn that pick and possibly trade up in the NFL draft or select a player late in the NFL draft, and they could be an impact player on day one. Because let's not forget, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they drafted Brock Purdy. They drafted Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle. Some of their best players over the last 5 to 6 years, they have been homegrown. They have drafted them. So they have proven this since they have gotten here since day one that they can draft talent and they can develop them. I'm telling you, the San Francisco 49ers, they're going to be okay. Kyle Juszczyk, he's a fullback. They had certain packages with him and Deebo Samuel. And to add another wrinkle to the Deebo Samuel conversation, he did not even like playing in the backfield unless he had to. And we saw them put him in the backfield when Christian McCaffrey went down. But he was complaining about that before he signed his contract extension. But you look at Kyle Juszczyk, a very good fullback. It was time to move on. He's getting older. They're bringing in another blocking tight end that can play alongside George Kittle. Fullbacks are huge in this system with Kyle Shanahan because they can do so much. But using Kyle Juszczyk is not a huge loss for the San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion. Now, Javon Hargrave, very good defensive tackle. He never had the same impact with the 49ers that he had with the Philadelphia Eagles, but he was a good player when he was fully healthy. He dealt with a lot of injuries with the San Francisco 49ers. You had him, you had Nick Bosa, you also had Leonard Floyd before Javon Hargrave went down with his injury. And they've tried to put in a lot of defensive linemen around Nick Bosa over the last few years. You think of Chase Young. They had him. They brought him in from a trade from the Washington Commanders. That worked out for half the season. Then in the playoffs, he disappeared. But losing Javon Hargrave, that's going to hurt in my opinion. I really want them to bring him back. But you can get another defensive tackle in the NFL draft, and you can still go into free agency and bring in another defensive tackle. But right now, you have Jordan Elliott. You have Nick Bosa still on your defensive line. Nick Bosa is still one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And you're bringing back Robert Saleh. Let's not forget that. Robert Saleh is a great defensive mind. Their defense has not been the same since Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans. Their defense did not take a major step back with D'Amico. He was a great defensive mind, and he's killing it right now with the Houston Texans. But over the last 2 years, you bring in Steve Wilks. He was not a horrible defensive coordinator. He really did not fit what Kyle Shanahan wanted. He was more so focused on the secondary than the front seven. And the same with Nick Sorensen. He's the former linebackers coach, and he could not get that rush up front. So even though you only have one true pass rusher right now in Nick Bosa, Robert Saleh's going to find a way to put pressure on the opposing quarterback, and it's going to help the secondary work out even more, even with them being without Charvarius Ward, who went to the Indianapolis Colts. And Charvarius Ward, he missed some time this year. And my thoughts and my prayers are with him. The reason why he missed time, his child died with his wife. And the same happened with Trent Williams. That is just terrible to hear and terrible to read. But Charvarius Ward missed time. Some of those young players in the back end of this defense, they had to step up. That's why you drafted Lenore. That's why you have Renardo Green, two very good cornerbacks. You have Jair Brown at the safety position. They also lost Hufanga. Very good playmaking safety, but he hasn't been the same player since he tore that ACL. He hasn't been able to stay on the field that much. And when he has been on the field, he was giving up some big plays. With the Denver Broncos, he should fit into a better situation. Another player that left is Dre Greenlaw. Now, Dre Greenlaw missed majority of this season, pretty much all of this season. He played in a couple of games, but he didn't look the same. He tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl. Now, I do believe this is going to be a major loss also, but they have already prepared for life without him. Dre Greenlaw is a very good player, but he dealt with injuries in the past too. He's never played a full season but once in his career. I like Dre Greenlaw a lot, and I'm not trying to come on here and dunk on these players. These are very good players, but there's a reason why they did not go all out and bring them back to this roster. As long as you have Fred Warner, you're going to be okay. And you can bring in another veteran option to play alongside him. This is what I would do. I would draft a linebacker and acclimate them with this culture. Because look at what you had to go with last year and last season with Devondre Campbell. You brought him over from the Green Bay Packers. And how he did the San Francisco 49ers. They wanted him to check back into that game against the Los Angeles Rams. He said, nah, man, I'm good. You have Dre Greenlaw, and Dre Greenlaw exited the game with an injury. And they wanted him to check back into the matchup. He said no, and he walked off the field. And that's why they suspended him for the rest of the season. And I doubt that he will get picked up by another team. His attitude is atrocious. And just to be real with you guys, he's not a very good linebacker. He wasn't that good with the Green Bay Packers, and he has dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. Jalen Moore, very good offensive tackle. He's no longer with the San Francisco 49ers. He's with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I actually like Jalen Moore a lot. That's a great signing for the Kansas City Chiefs. I wish the 49ers could have brought him back because you need to have a successor. You need to have a success plan in place for when Trent Williams does retire. He can't play forever, and he's starting to deal with injuries. You look at what the 49ers had to deal with this year. A lot of it was due to injuries. The offensive line protection was not up to par, and you see them losing a lot of free agents. They have been in this situation before. Let's not forget when Jimmy Garoppolo went down his injury and the San Francisco 49ers had a terrible record. Then they came back and they were in a better situation. This is the same coaching staff, the same regime that went out there and went on a Super Bowl run with a quarterback that you selected with the last pick in the NFL draft. And some of these players, they have to walk away because you have to save that money and you have to give that money to Brock Purdy. You're not going to find another quarterback like this the way that you did with Brock Purdy. Say what you want to say about Brock. He's not the biggest quarterback in the room. He doesn't have the biggest arm. He is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. And you still have weapons around him. Christian McCaffrey. You're going to bring him back. And I do think that Christian McCaffrey, if he stays fully healthy, he will easily be one of the best players in the NFL. We've seen this in the past. It's time to lessen that workload on his body. This is a deep running back class. Bring in a running back or run the football with Isaac Guerendo and run the football with Jordan Mason. You don't have to go out there and force feed Christian McCaffrey 20 to 25 times a game. His first game back this season, when he was dealing with Achilles tendonitis, what's the first thing that Kyle Shanahan did? He gave him 20 carries in the matchup. He forgot about Jordan Mason. He forgot about Isaac Guerendo. This is a running back friendly system. If you're worried about ball security, run the football with Jordan Mason. You don't have to run the football with Isaac Guerendo. Jordan Mason had a very good season until he went down with an injury. The running back rotation will always be there with Kyle Shanahan. We saw this with Mike Shanahan. He took all of the run scheme and all of the run fitting responsibilities from his dad, and he has basically imported it into his system. The 49ers run game will still be there. The wide receiving weapons are still there. You have Ricky Pearsall. That's why you select him in the first round. Jawan Jennings is able to go out there and be a top wide receiver with this organization. He had 975 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns on the year. If he was not kicked out of a game late in the year, he would have had over 1,000 receiving yards. And George Kittle is one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL by far. 1,106 receiving yards. He also had 6 receiving touchdowns on the year. 8 receiving touchdowns, on the year. The 49ers will be okay. They could go out there, they could sign Joey Bosa to match him up with Nick Bosa. They have already offered him a contract. I will say this, be careful with doing that. I like Joey Bosa a lot, but Joey Bosa has dealt with a lot of injuries in the past, and he is not the same pass rusher that he was 3 to 4 years ago because of those injuries. He suffered a groin injury, a back injury. Nick Bosa is a better brother. Having him play with his brother is nice in theory, but you need a consistent edge rusher to play alongside Nick Bosa. They released Leonard Floyd. He's now going to sign with the Atlanta Falcons. Losing some of these names are going to hurt, but in the grand scheme of things, as long as you have that system there with Robert Saleh, as long as you have that system there with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, and you can take care of Brock Purdy, you should be able to go out there and win enough games to make the NFL playoffs. And I still believe that they will be a Super Bowl contender in the NFC. And they can still make a lot of moves in the NFL draft. They can make some trades before the season starts. And speaking of trading pieces, Brandon Aiyuk is the biggest elephant in the room. Now, it is so many reports about Brandon Aiyuk right now because we know what happened last season. He hurt his knee against the Kansas City Chiefs. It sounds like they got strong-armed into giving him that deal. The San Francisco 49ers, a lot of reports have come out. They're upset about giving him that deal. But at the same time, Brandon Aiyuk is easily your best wide receiver. Stick with him. Hopefully he comes back from that knee injury and he will return back to form. And when I look at Brandon Aiyuk, he missed a lot of time in training camp because of this. He was not ready to play in week 1 against the New York Jets. He didn't only just drop 1, but he dropped 2 receiving touchdowns in that matchup. But he's that wide receiver. You just tell him, go get open. You tell him, go inside the slot, go get open, go take the top off the defense. Move him to the outside. Primarily, he's an outside wide receiver, but he can line up anywhere. He's easily a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL in this West Coast system. And I look at the offensive line. You have Trent Williams. You have Dominic Puni. Dominic Puni is one of the best guards in football. Very good player. You can add in another tackle. They have problems. I'm not saying that they don't, but they have a lot of young players that are ready to step up. And this is what the 49ers did just 3 years ago. They lose some players. They bring some new ones in. They acclimate them in the system. And I really hope that's what they do at that linebacking spot. Don't just go out there and bring in a veteran. You don't know much about his character. When you draft a player, you can build a relationship with him so you don't run into the problems that you ran into with Devondre Campbell. You have Devondre Campbell coming out and basically trying to call out Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. That was all on him. He didn't want to come back into the game. And John Lynch was furious, and I don't blame him. Many people forget John Lynch, many decades ago, was a very good player. And he played the safety position. And he was one of the best safeties in the NFL at that time. He has an eye for talent. He knows what to do on the defensive side of the ball. Bringing back Robert Saleh is a great move. He's one of the top paid coordinators in the NFL. If this continues to work out for him, he's going to be a head coach yet again in the NFL. I know that his tenure with the New York Jets did not work out very well, but they made the Super Bowl with him as a defensive coordinator. They're very good against the run. They're very good against the pass. But you know one thing about Robert Saleh, he's going to bring that energy over. Bring that energy back that him and DeMeco Ryans had. So the defense should take a step up, even though they're losing some of this talent. But you have a lot of injury-prone guys that you're letting go. And I'm talking about Dre Greenlaw here, Hufanga, and Javon Hargrave. On the surface, these are big misses to the casual fan. But if you watch the San Francisco 49ers, those players have missed a lot of time over the last 2 to 3 years. But let me know in the comment section below how you feel about the San Francisco 49ers and are they still a contender in the NFC. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, we want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.